Hey guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, the Bright Side Girl, and today we're doing my May audiobook wrap up. If you guys missed it, I posted my May physical reading wrap up yesterday. I'll link that up here in the cards if you guys want to check it out. There wasn't a whole lot happening, but there was one thing I was really excited about. But this time I think I read a total of 7 audiobooks or 6 and 1 DNF. I'm not entirely sure. I had a pretty good month, really enjoyed a lot of things, and I've just been gardening a lot, and so I'm able to listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I haven't been listening to as many podcasts. So, been doing great. I'm already like 2 or 3 audiobooks down for June, so stay tuned for that as well. So without further ado, we're gonna get started. First up, we're gonna talk about the one DNF I had that I am very sad about. I DNF'd Coral by Sarah Ella. Very, 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 very upset about this. I actually traded for this a while back and I was so excited about it. So this is I don't know if this is a Little Mermaid retelling, but it's a mermaid book, but it's really more of a contemporary read. Beautiful cover. I listened to this one on audiobook. So this one is narrated by Jennifer Jill Araya and Mark Turetsky. Hopefully I'm pronouncing those right. They actually did a really good job, which is why I continued on with this longer than I should have. I think I ended this with like 3 hours left before I was just like, I'm not enjoying this. It could have just been because my anxiety and stress was just a lot higher, but I personally am not a huge fan of like heavier contemporary books, and there was quite a bit of this in here. It has like 2 sides that you're learning like a magical mermaidy thing that's happening, and then you kind of have this like contemporary portion and it's going back and forth. And the contemporary portion, there's trigger warnings for like suicide and like abuse and parental issues and like all kinds of things. I just don't personally like to read about that kind of stuff, and so it wasn't for me. If you like to read about that, you might really enjoy this, but I didn't love it. It didn't have quite enough of the magical side for me. The characters were kind of unlikable as well. The narrators did a great job, but I didn't rate this one because I wound up DNFing it, and I'm probably gonna unhaul it as well. Next up, I listened to Betrayal by Gillian Shields. This is narrated by Emily Durante, who does an okay job. She's kind of growing on me. Not my favorite narrator, but she's decent. This is the second book in the Immortal Quartet, which I really enjoyed the first book the first time I read it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit when I listened to the audiobook. I did enjoy this book more. This is the second time reading it for me. I did enjoy this one a lot more this second time around. It is set in a Gothic boarding school, and there's like witchy things and magical things that happen. And it's in modern times, but everything feels like very old-timey, and there's like mysteries that get unraveled, and you're kind of going back and forth between things that happened in the past, at least in the first book. Can't say too much about this second book. I wound up giving it 3.5 stars, and I will continue on with the series. Next up, I read Be Not Far From Me by Mindy McGinnis. This is narrated by Brittany Pressley. This is a short, like 5.5-hour audiobook. This is the new release from Mindy McGinnis, who I really didn't like Not a Drop to Drink that much, but I really liked another story she read that kind of had like a Gothic mystery, like Sherlock vibe to it. I can't remember the name for the life of me. So I decided to pick this one up because it is a survivalist story, which I keep saying that I really like these, but then I keep reading them and not liking them. So this one is about a girl that goes kind of on like a wilderness, like, I don't know, like camping thing with her friends, or like weekend getaway or whatever in the woods. She's very familiar with the woods. She's very outdoorsy and all that stuff. Something happens and she winds up getting split from the group and winds up having to like survive on her own in the wilderness and kind of contemplate everything. What I don't like about these wilderness books, these survivalist reads, which I don't really know how you would get around, is you're getting, again, kind of that contemporary aspect. A lot of stories from her past and things that have happened from her childhood, and they're all very, very dark and intense and very sad. And that's just, again, not my style of read. So this was written really well. It's very dark. Like, things that she has to do while she's like in the wilderness and trying to survive are real intense. If you have any like animal issues, I wouldn't read this one for sure. I do think it's well written, and I thought that it was smart, and I did kind of like the ending, so I wound up giving it 3 stars. But again, not my favorite, a little bit too dark and a little bit too sad for me. A Madness So Discreet. That's the Mindy McGinnis book I like. Next up, I read The Gracier by Kim Liggett. I hope that's how you pronounce it. Narrated by Emily Schaffer. First of all, she does a really good job with the narration. I didn't really have an interest in this one. Then I wound up finding this at one of my used bookstores last year. And I was like, okay, well, it's a newer release. I think early 2000 or late 2019. I'll give it a shot. I was really nervous about it. Kind of about like an island or a town. It's got like the village type of vibe where girls are kind of scorned for things that happen when they like come of age. They get like enhanced magical abilities, they call them, that like attract men too powerfully. And so they send these girls like into the woods to live for a year to kind of release their magic. But then when they go, they kind of find out all these things about their society and each other and all that kind of stuff. I was kind of nervous about it because I didn't know if this was going to be the kind of feminist book that I don't like. I don't like man-hating feminist books. I just, you know, girl power and all that kind of stuff is great, but I don't like it when the theme of the book is that we hate men and all that kind of stuff. So to each his own. That wasn't necessarily the case. It kind of has like a Lord of the Flies vibe meets The Village. Had a lot of twists and turns I wasn't expecting. Was a lot darker than I was expecting. Honestly, like, I'm not really sure, again, how I feel about this. The ending was kind of left open-ended, which I didn't think. Like, my friend Alyssa pointed it out, and I was like, I didn't really think about that before. I don't really know how I feel. Like, I kind of still think about this, and I kind of really like it, and I thought it had some cool things to say. How the girls treated each other in here was not my favorite, and it was like a lot darker than I expected. I did like the survival-y aspects in here a lot more than I have some of the other reads. I definitely think it's probably worth a try if you can handle something a little bit darker, but I wound up giving this one 4 stars just because the writing was really well, and I did enjoy it like overall. Next up, I read Imagine Me by Tahara Mafi, narrated by Kate Simpson and Vicus Adams, and I think maybe one other narrator. I love all the narrators for this book. So this is the final book in the Shatter Me series. This is a dystopian series, and at this point, so much has changed in the world that I'm not even going to bother describing it, but it's heavy on the romance. It's heavy on like empowerment and lots of twists and turns. Really cool, really kind of out there and like over the top. This one wasn't my favorite. It wasn't like my favorite ending to a book. I just love the series so much though that it kind of didn't matter. I did really like the very end. I'm sad that we're kind of done with these characters because I really enjoy them a lot. They're some of my favorite characters like of all time. So I wound up giving this one 4 stars. Not my favorite in the series, but still definitely worth a read. And I'm really glad that I finally wrapped it up. So Jeff and I actually made a trip back to Kansas City, which is where I'm from, to go to his hometown to pick up his toolbox. When we first moved to California, we were living in a tiny apartment, and so we left a lot of our stuff behind at his parents' farmhouse, and he has been working as a mechanic out of a very tiny, very sad toolbox, and it was just kind of starting to break down. And with gas prices being so cheap and everything, we decided to make a road trip, so we drove 25 hours home and 25 hours back. It was not the best, but anyway, during that time, we listened to The Kingdom Keepers, Book 1 by Ridley Pearson, who is one of the authors of Peter and the Starcatchers that we really like. This one was narrated by Gary Littman. Not my favorite narrator, but like just okay enough. This is a middle grade series, and it is set in Disneyland, which was really fun. So it's set in Disneyland after dark where everything comes alive. So it's kind of got like Night at the Museum, but in Disneyland vibes. There are these kids that have created these holograms that are like tour guides for Disney. So they bring these kids in, they film them, and then like when you show up at the park, a hologram of this kid comes up and like shows you around the park. And apparently that also creates some like somewhat magical abilities for these kids, and they're trying to like save Disney after dark. So this is book 1. It's like a 6 or 7 book series. I enjoyed it, but I've got to be honest, if this wasn't set at Disney, I wouldn't have kept reading it. Definitely a little bit heavier on the middle grade than what I prefer, or at least I'm not sure if it was the narrator or not. Just the language and stuff, the way they talk to each other. We are in the middle of the second book, which I am liking a little bit more, and I do like it because you're getting like just Pirates of the Caribbean and like all those kinds of different characters and things, which is really kind of fun. And if you're familiar with Disney, you kind of learn about like the different parts of the park and stuff, which is great. So I wound up giving this one 3.5 stars. I'm not sure if I'll finish the entire series or not, because there's 6 books and then there's like 3 or 4 more in another series that's like a side series. So I'll keep you guys updated and let you know. But yeah. Then I read Beware the Night by Jessica Fleck, narrated by Vanessa Moyen. I don't know how to pronounce it or not, but it'll be right here. So this is a 2019 release. I've been trying to catch up on some of the new releases that I traded for. So this is set in a world where there are people that live in the daytime and people that live at the nighttime, which is a concept that I really, really like. And there's all these like magical, fantastical elements, and you're kind of supposed to like fear the night people, and they kind of try to take over the day people, or so our main character thinks. And you're supposed to trust the Imperi, which are kind of like their guards and things, to protect you from the night and the night people. And then our lead character kind of finds out some things are maybe not as they seem. And I liked it. I didn't love the narrator, which could be part of it. I felt a little bit distracted, a little bit confused. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to continue on with the series or not. There's two. I think it might just be a duology. I couldn't find the second book on audio because I was trying to listen to it right away because I can't decide if I want to keep this or not. It's a good solid like 3.5 star read. I'm not sure if it's going to stick with me long enough to keep it around. Let me know if you guys read this one and what your opinions are on it. My description of it was really terrible, per usual. But I kind of have mixed feelings on this one. It was definitely good and it was definitely well written. I'm just not sure if it's one that's going to kind of hang on. Okay, lastly, I read The Vanishing Deep by Astrid Schuldt, narrated by Carissa Vacker and Will Damron. First of all, let me say that they were fabulous narrators. Really good. I've never listened to anything from them before. Excited to check them out some more. So originally I thought this was going to be kind of like sci-fi mermaids. I knew it was set on like a different planet and like an underwater world, and I was hoping there would be some mermaidy aspect in there. There's not, but that's okay. If you guys are looking for something for Mermaid Marathon, highly, highly suggest this one. I read Astrid Schult's Four Dead Queens last year and really loved it. Her writing style is so incredibly unique. There are a lot of twists and turns and things I did not see coming at all. This is set like on a different planet, kind of underwater world-esque, because the great waves have destroyed this one planet, and our lead character has grown up and learned to like dive and scavenge and find treasures and things to sell for like food. And also one of the main companies has figured out how to bring people back from the dead for a day. So like if you die, they preserve your body and then they can bring you back for a total of 24 hours for you to talk to your loved ones and kind of get some closure for the family. So our lead character, Tempe's sister, Elise, has died, and she's trying to scavenge and find things to kind of bring her back to talk to her because she believes that she's keeping a secret and she wants to find out some answers. And so that's all I need to tell you. There's so much detail in this. There's also another character that we're following and he has secrets and things as well. There's a little bit of romance in here. There's a lot of suspense. It was just so good. I really liked it. It was like a 4.5 star for me. The audiobook was excellent. The ending was just a little bit roller coastery in like almost a bad way for me, just because I expected something to happen and then it didn't, and I was kind of like, oh, okay. It almost felt open-ended. I don't think she's gonna write any more in this series, but I would like it if she did because it was really, really interesting. Let me know if you guys have read this one. I'm excited that I got to another 2020 release. Okay, so those are all the audiobooks I listened to for the month of May. I did pretty good, I think. That was quite a few. Got through some things I've been wanting to get through for a while. Let me know if you guys like audiobooks and what you've been listening to and reading down below in the comments. Hope you're coming in for Mermaid Marathon coming up soon, and I'll see you guys next time on the bright side. Bye!